Hey, this is Richard. Unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, Jim is not with me this week. Me personally, I consider it quite a blessing because we all know how he gets on my nerves, and I'm sure he considers it a blessing because I get on his nerves. But just in case you are offended by a certain language or the fact that it's just me recording, you may want to hit the stop or pause button and wait till Jim returns. And I am Richard. I do general manage or game manage, whatever you want to call it. Quite a few things out here, and I'm usually the co-host with Jim. But today we have a special guest in CJ Solos, her username on the Knights of the Braille Discord, and we're gonna talk a little bit about her experience with tabletop role-playing games, as well as with something I'm personally interested in is the live-action role-play. She has a lot of experience. She's really knowledgeable. I'm trying to make sure I get all of the butter-up questions that Jim told me to say in here. Yeah. So CJ, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, well, I've been tabletop gaming since I was a teenager, like 13, 14 years old, as when I first kind of got myself into it. We're talking like first and second edition D&D, if that gives away my age at all. Uh,
We can't do math here at the night, so we're not really sure.
And I've been doing live action roleplay now for 13 years. Wow. It's been a lot of fun. So a lot of gaming here.
Right. So you have a lot of fun with it, and that's what matters. It's like what we were saying before we actually started recording. As long as you have fun, that's what matters. So what was your first tabletop role playing game?
It was D&D. The game what we played was a little bit of a mix of first and second edition. It was kind of at that point where second edition AD&D was just starting to come out.
Right. So you played D&D 1.5 then before they started doing all.
Yeah, essentially.
I got you. So you've seen this change tremendously from when you started playing to 5e now, and what I personally think will be 6e within probably 3 or 4 years. How much has it changed, like in your experience and your level of play since then?
It's changed quite a bit. Thaco gives a lot of people nightmares.
Right. Right.
That's probably I guess the one thing that's kind of clung around. There's people who have heard of Thaco who didn't even play.
Right.
The game has become definitely a lot more about advancing your character. Back when I started, it'd take you a long time to earn the experience to level up a character. So if you're a 5th level wizard, you've been playing a while and working your butt off to earn that.
You've earned that level then, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking. Rangers were a prestige class back in the day. They weren't just one of your core things.
Really?
Oh yeah. Your basic thing was your fighter, your thief, and mage.
Huh. See, I didn't even know that.
Anything else that you know of now, or if they existed, were prestige classes. So if you wanted to be a paladin, you had to start off as a fighter and work your way to it.
So you couldn't just start off like, oh, I want to be a paladin and go from there. So let me ask you this, and I told you I'd come up with more questions the more and more you talked. Have you had to relearn it with each edition, or is it easy just to transition into another edition?
It depends on which one you're going from. I completely skipped over 3.0. By the time I hopped from one group that had just kind of drifted apart to finding new groups, 3.0 had come and gone. So there was a lot of differences. 3.5 was a little bit of a learning for me. But then you had 4th edition, which was kind of a monster of its own.
I've heard stories about that.
It reminded me of playing an MMO, pretty much. And then 5e is, I guess, closer than 4th edition was to it, but it's still its own thing.
And
5th edition is
growing.
kind of a weird learning experience for me because I've gotten used to a lot of choices and a variety of things that you can do, where 5th edition is pretty slimmed down and simplified so that you can just grab anybody and get them involved.
Well, let me ask you this then. So you played all of the editions except for 3.0. Which have you found to be your favorite? Or do you have a favorite?
I don't really have a favorite per se. I mean, I miss the nostalgia of 1st and 2nd edition, just because that's where I started, and just how much more roleplay focused those games were at the time.
Right.
Because it was more so about the story and getting to where your character is going, rather than just dungeon crawl, earning the XP and getting the gold.
Yeah.
3.5, I liked. It was, you had plenty of choices you could do. There were some things that were kind of broken about it, but I think I liked it a lot, mostly because there were so many other games that stemmed off of it. Like, I played a lot of the Star Wars game that was based on the same system. 4th edition was alright. I mean, there were. I didn't really like the daily powers and the point and click of abilities, like I was playing World of Warcraft or something.
Right.
But they did have some things that I liked. I liked their Paragon Path thing, where you could advance into something specialized without still gaining things from what your base class was. Most systems, if you decide that you're going to become an archmage, anything that you would get out of being a wizard, you stop advancing in that. Even though you're still technically practicing being a wizard, you're not a wizard anymore.
It's like you're centralizing or focusing in on one thing. Ah, okay. Okay, and I know you mentioned the Star Wars, and you've actually played in one of the one-shots that I ran with the Star Wars 5e. I think it might have been the first one that I ran, where I was inept and didn't know half of the stuff that I thought I knew. Of course, that hasn't changed any, but that was at least the first one-shot that I did. And I mean, I personally really like the SW5E system. It's along the same lines as D&D 5e. So, it's like I can take a lot of the knowledge that I know from D&D and slide it over and just put like a science fiction or technology swing on it.
Yeah.
So how does, and like I said, you played in that one shot, how does it compare to the Star Wars version of the game that you play? Because I think I remember you telling me you played, was it the
I've played
D6?
all of those. I've played all of those too.
Oh, okay. I won't tell you that Jim called you a nerd. I'll take care of him though. No, he really didn't. So you played all of those then?
Yeah, all the way from the first made by West End Games when it was an all D6 system, and up through the revised core rules, which was by Wizards of the Coast and their Saga edition. I Fantasy Flight games, I've played a little bit of theirs. There's not really a lot of people who play that around here, so it's been more of just little one-shot things that you might find at comic stores and stuff. And then of course your 5e one shot that you did, I was in that.
Right. So which one did you find was, I guess the funnest or the best one that you've played in out of those? That's when you answered that mine, that way. No, I'm just kidding.
So mostly I liked the revised core, which is based off of the 3.5 D20 D&D rules. Mainly because I kind of liked how they handled the light side, dark side things of the Force, and playing Force users and stuff.
Right.
I liked some of the things that they put into it in Saga Edition to kind of, so you're not just playing cookie cutter Force users.
Right.
So like if they somehow managed to create a system that was like the revised core rules and added some of those things, that would be a game I would probably play a lot.
Right. Yeah, and speaking of that, it's made me think about the SW5E. And one thing I really like about it is, you have the alignment, and not that you don't have that in your other games too, but it's like for every quote unquote bad or dark thing that you do, it's like 1 point on the dark side. And eventually, you can go all the way. So if you want to remain like true neutral, then you have to work your way back to being in the middle. I really like that because it's a lot easier to keep up with. I mean, not that I keep up with it, but the players can. But I think you may agree with this or not. I think each game, each system, whatever it is, there's something broken about each and every one of them. If you look at it.
Just mainly because game design is a lot more challenging than people might realize. There's so much that goes into making sure something is balanced, and once you get one thing balanced, then you got
it unbalances something else.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know because I'm working on the game actually, and I thought, this would be simple. I'll just use a D6. That's all you need. Well, certain things may require you to do something else. Well, I don't want to move away from the D6, so I'll move into 2D6, and it seems like there's something always changing where you have to try to edit it out or, work on it to fix it. But I think each system is going to have something that's broken in it no matter what.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, in all of your experience with like tabletop gaming, what has been your absolute favorite game?
Ooh,
tough question,
really
huh?
That's a hard one because I've played so many, and there's so many things I love. Like I used to play in a Firefly game.
Ooh, tell me about that because I've heard that, but I've never been in one where people have played it and never heard anything about it other than the name.
Oh, I mean, it's pretty fun. I mean, you basically do like what you see on the show, well, at least that's what we did anyway. We had our own ship and we ran around and we did jobs and had adventures with it and everything. And it was,
see, I've never watched the show either. Gasp, I know.
Yeah. You really should. It's only one season long.
I might can handle that.
Fox is dumb. But no, it's there's a lot of comedy to it. It has some good serious storylines to it, but it's not so serious where you're like, this is too much. There's plenty of things that'll make you laugh.
Right.
Between the character interactions and everything.
I may have to look and see if I can find it.
It's like It's like Old West meets outer space,
Ooh,
kind of.
then yeah, I probably would really like it. I'm
Um,
gonna have to look it up, and if it sucks, I will be sure to tell everybody that CJ recommended this and it sucked. And uh, um,
uh,
so you
you
like
know,
Firefly?
yeah, I have books for Stargate. So we've done that a little bit.
Uh-huh.
We never really could get that to stay on the ground very well, just because, well, college campus, people that you have
Right,
playing your games get pretty in and out as they come and go.
right.
Um, I've played the GURPS system, different games in that system. Um, I did a superhero. Well, it was more like an anti-superhero game.
Oh, that
Uh,
sounds like something I'd enjoy too, because I'm always going against the grain.
well, it's like the whole storyline is that there was this team of um, superhumans put together to go take care of things that people needed taken care of, and like most of us were, well, you do this thing or you're just going to go to jail.
Ah,
So,
yes, that sounds like normal weekends for me. Uh,
um, wow,
so let's see. And I know,
Shadowrun,
yeah,
Shadowrun's another.
that's where I was going to the Shadowrun. 'Cause I know you used to run a session of that. I don't know if you still do or not. But tell us a
Well,
little
no,
bit about that.
no, what I was running on this server, they ran through the little story arc, and then we decided to hold off because life is full time work and full time school. Uh,
Right. People let life get in the way. How
yeah,
dare they?
yeah, trying to be a software engineer is a lot of schoolwork.
Yeah, I
Um,
immediately felt like 10 points dumber right now, And it's gonna immediately, like, exponentially get worse, believe me.
but Shadowrun is like if you kind of want to play D&D but have cybernetics and laser guns and stuff like that. It's probably what you want to play.
Ooh. I've heard, like I said, I've heard about it, and I've always wanted to at least hop in on like a one shot or something of it, but
Uh-huh.
never can find anybody that's willing to run it. And I have enough rules of other systems in my head that there's no way I can learn another one. And to be honest, it's like, I would like to be a player every once in a while,
Right. Shadowrun is really not too difficult. Like once you have your character made, it's just rolling the number of dice that's by your school, yeah, by your skill, and it's all d6s. So
Ooh, I like simple.
if you have a 5 in your pistols, you roll 5d6.
Ah, okay. Yeah, see, I like simple. I like to keep it
And
simple.
it's a success system, so it's not like you have to add it up. You just, okay, I have this number of 5s and 6s on my dice. Is that enough? Do I win?
Ah,
Um,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
sounds like something I'd enjoy playing, but yeah, I just got to find somebody out there that's willing to run one. Like
yeah,
I
so
said,
it's I wouldn't say it's quite post-apocalyptic. I mean, it's like there was a big event that happened which really shook up everything. So you have things like the Yakuza and big corporations and everything running
right,
things more so than the governments. And usually the the idea of it is the characters are mercenaries that are doing like all this, corporate espionage or, hacking into things and whatever kind of trouble you decide you want to let yourself get paid for.
right. Sounds like a lighter form of like Warhammer or so. Like not as grim dark as Warhammer can be. Depending on who's running it. Huh. Maybe I can sweet talk somebody and bribe somebody and, give all kinds of different platitudes and
Maybe.
get into one. If nothing else, like just to sit and listen. But then again, I could look it up on YouTube because it's kind of like Google and Amazon. It has
Oh yeah,
everything.
there's definitely. I mean, there's some older ones. I don't know if there's any recent um streams of people's games, but yeah, there's some out there on YouTube if you just Google it or
Yeah,
search it there.
'cause I had looked out something called BattleTech, and I thought because Blind Temple was saying how fun that was. So I started listening to one. It's like I don't know that I could play this. I don't know that I have enough intelligence to play this. But
Yeah, I don't have any experience with that. I have a friend that used to play MechWarrior.
I think it's the same thing. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Close enough, but and maybe I'll look it up whenever I have. I don't know if you've heard about this thing called free time. I know I hear a lot of people talking about it. I have yet to come across it in my life, especially over the past like month or so. Um, so, and like I've talked to you, privately before about the live action and stuff. Tell me like a lot about this. I mean, because I really am interested in it, even though I live in the backwaters of Georgia. I would love to, try this out eventually.
Yeah, well, it's basically you taking what you do at the table and you go out to some camp park somewhere and you do it for real life. It's the simplest way to go with it. Yeah, there's different ways of playing. There's some of them that are just strictly role play. There isn't a lot of physicality to it.
Right.
Like if you get your White Wolf games, like Vampire and Werewolf and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
they're usually they're what they call parlor LARPs. So it's all role play. Anything that has to be resolved, it's rock paper scissors, and you compare character sheets.
Oh, that's pretty difficult right there.
It's not my cup of tea in the realm of LARPs.
Right.
But mostly what I do is what they call boffer LARPs, where you use foam weapons and you go chase down monsters or whatever, and you fight things. You actually fight things.
Now you got me really, really interested. I can hit somebody with a foam weapon.
Yes, and it's okay.
Oh, I'm going up to Canada, Jim. I'm going to hit you with a foam axe. Just letting him know. So, go ahead.
It's I kind of really got into it in part because finding people who would just want to spar with me was hard, because I guess I get a little bit on the aggressive side. I'm competitive. So people are like, nah, that's done. But like, yeah, everybody comes here for it, so it's like, let's do it.
So let me get this right. That's why you told me that you wanted me to come down there and get in on the live action, so you could hit me in the head with a foam hammer. I understand it now. Oh no, I'm just picking at you.
No, not really. No, really, it's so with my blindness, I've always been very trailblazing about it.
Right.
I want to do the things that I want to do, and I've seen so much where people are unfortunately settle on the fact that they've been told so much that they can't do something
Exactly.
because they can't see. And I'm like, no, that's not true. I'm going to drag somebody out now and we're going to do this thing.
Oh yeah. That's one thing, and I believe we'll agree on that you are the one that puts limits on yourself.
Exactly. I mean, sure, I'm not going to go out on the highway and drive a car.
I did that on a dirt road one time, but that's a totally different story and not for a podcast where kids may hear.
Right, but so I
to
know
do.
there are really things that I can't do because I can't see. But like,
Right.
something like with the live action role play, a lot of that is you get out of it, what you make of it and what you put into it. So, you just find a way that works for you and that's fun for you, and that that's all you got to do.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. With your level of blindness, and I'll use the term blindness because you did, and that's how I feel. I'm not visually impaired. I'm blind as a bat. Um, how do you play like the live action role play? Like if you go into a battle, how do you battle someone?
I pay attention to all my other senses.
Right.
Actually, so it's kind of a funny thing because it confuses some people.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So you're like the real life Daredevil. Okay, so we
yeah,
got you.
yeah, I kind of approaching to that. So, um, it was recently. It's I mean, I guess recently is relative because it was pre-pandemic. Um,
Right.
there was an encounter that everyone was going on. So okay, I'll back up a little bit. So with live action role play, it's very cooperative. So you have a character that you play and you go adventure as and do all this stuff, but everybody takes a turn spending some time playing NPCs.
Okay.
So, you might be doing one or the other thing. And it's all fun. Playing NPCs, you get to go do all kinds of stuff. So, um, but this one that I decided I was gonna go, I was gonna go NPC on, because I hadn't done any yet, and they were like, well, it's going to be a bunch of these like automated robot gun things that are flying around shooting people, and I'm like, oh, that's fine. I don't have to uh, shoot the actual Nerf bullets. I can just throw the little birdseed packets that are like the alternative, right? And
Right. Oh no, I don't
they're
want to
like,
shoot the bullet.
okay, if you're sure. And and that, like, none of the players want me to do that again.
Ah,
Just because of I was more accurate than the people who could see shooting the Nerf bullets.
really? Jim, I'm coming up to Canada with a Nerf gun and bullets and birdseed. Um, that is really, really interesting. Now I know, like me and Jim, we have like hearing problems too. I
Hmm.
only have like the one good ear, because of the damage and all. But I mean, I can see like sitting there, like listening to it, or our form of quote unquote watching it. I think it'd be a lot of fun because I did watch the links that you had sent me on YouTube, and it's like, oh, that sounds so fun. And what?
Yeah, the games that I play in aren't quite that huge, but yeah, it's fun. And you don't have to always just do the combat. I mean, some people show up and you know they'll decide that they're just going to be the bartender. Um,
Right? Can he have a
uh,
Nerf gun with bullets too, though? I mean, that's just what I want, so I can shoot people with it. You know. um, but it sounds like it would be a ton of fun. It's like bringing D&D to real life, or bringing something like that to real life. Something
yeah,
you could really. I'm trying to think of the intelligent word here, and we all know that I have trouble with that. Like you could immerse yourself in it.
yeah, and if you have other creative, outlets, it opens those doors for you too. Because I mean, sure, you're basically doing this improv theater acting stuff, but then there's costuming. So if you like to do stuff like that, creating costumes lets you do that. If you like telling stories, you can write story ideas and submit them to the people who run the game, and sometimes they run with it.
Oh, that's really cool. Now the costumes
know,
really have me interested too, because I can just imagine like some of the costumes that people would wear.
yeah, building the props. People make their own weapons and everything. So it's
Huh.
you know,
Sounds like it can. And I'm not like saying this in a bad way. It sounds like you can put as much into it as you want to get out of it. Like you said earlier, like if you want to spend $1,000, in like one session, you could. But if you want to spend just a bare minimum, you could get the same amount out of it.
oh yeah, and like some people are a lot better at it than I am. They could just run out to the thrift store and find everything they need, and they look really
Right.
awesome. you know.
So all you got to say is, yeah, this is my, 37th century cast iron armor that's lightweight. Well, no, that's a T-shirt with a hole in it. Not to me,
Yeah.
it's not. You know, it sounds like it is a ton of fun and kind of like here where we have a community. It sounds like it's quite the community there too, where people will help you out, look out for you. Um, make things where everybody can have fun, not just those without disabilities, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the game that I particularly play in right now, they're trying to be very receptive to involving people regardless of what their demographic is. And
Right.
I mean, you still run into some things sometimes that are just kind of like, what the heck. But um that's why I think it's such a good thing, like if more people got involved, it kind of exposes people more to it, and then so they're not so shocked by it and not knowing what to do.
Right.
There was one LARP that I went to, and they had a game up in Northern California, and I was just doing my thing as I usually do with my character and everything. I didn't really notice anything particularly odd. But that Saturday and late morning, perhaps one of the game marshals come up to me and uh, she asks me if I'm okay with fighting. I don't remember exactly how she worded it, but I was kind of the question confused me. I was very puzzled. And I was just like, well, I mean, if something's comes up and attacks me, I'm gonna attack back.
Right.
That's only the logical response, right?
Yeah, you don't know me,
But no, but I found out that the players that were being NPCs and the monsters and whatnot, they were actually avoiding me because they didn't know what to do.
Right.
They didn't know if it was okay to come up and attack me or not. I'm like, oh no, it's like, bring it on. I'm okay.
You won't want to again, I promise you. Uh,
And
and
yes,
and I'm sure you find that a lot, and that's part of the reason that we're doing the Everyone Games event is because people don't know, and it's not. I won't say that they're not afraid to ask questions, but they're so worried about offending, and me personally, come up to me, ask me, don't just like stand there and stare at me and let me figure out you're standing there staring at me, because then I will have a good time, believe me. But just ask. If you don't know, ask is how I feel.
yeah, and that's what I've always told people. I'd rather you ask me a question and me explain something than you just decide on your own and spread something wrong or insulting.
Right.
I'd prefer to educate people if I can.
Well, I try to, but most everybody has a higher education than I do, so.
But yeah, no, it's fun. I early on when I first started LARPing, there was a guy who took over the game. Eventually, he took it over, but when he first came on to help run it, people told him, that I was visually impaired, and he didn't believe them.
Really?
Just
Oh, yeah.
because he saw me out there fighting and like throwing projectiles at people and hitting them. He was like, "There's no way."
Oh, yeah, you definitely need to
He
change
thought
your
I
name
was
to
like
Daredevil.
screwing with him.
My friends say the same thing about me, but I think you need to change your name to Daredevil,
Yeah, I get those.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I know you probably want to go to bed and get some rest, or at least rest. I do appreciate you, coming on the podcast, and I would love to have you back again because I just got this feeling there's a ton of stories there that is our own version of Unearthed Arcana. Is that we're going to call it like Unearthed CJ. But
Yeah, lots of stories.
we would love to have you back, and if Jim doesn't want to have you back, I'll hit him with a foam pellet and a styrofoam
Okay.
axe. And
Okay.
but yeah, really, really appreciate it, CJ. Thank you so much for coming on here and for telling us your experience. And is there anything that you'd like to say before we close out?
No, nothing really else. I mean, people can always ask me questions if they want to know. We got a fresh group of people who come down from Georgia to play our game. So, if ever you need a way down.
I'm kind of scared now since you're out there hitting people and stuff. I might come down there like my hockey helmet, hockey pads, and and make sure that I definitely don't get hurt. But again,
They would just consider you well armored. That's all.
exactly. But real quick before we leave, or before I send the recording bot out, do you have any book recommendations? We usually ask our guests, and Jim and I talk about books. Do you have any recommendations that you enjoy reading?
Well, Dresden Files series is a favorite of mine.
Yes, they are. Harry Dresden is awesome.
I like all his stuff. Let's see, what else have I read that was nice. There is another series that I've read that I can't remember the name of it now. That I've listened to that was
starting to
kind of one of those urban fantasy series.
Gotcha.
That I liked.
I've heard about them. I think I've read like one or two, but I can't remember the names of them. Yeah, but they are pretty good, and it bothers me whenever I can't remember a name of something.
Yeah, I know. I'm just terrible with that stuff. But like, give me a string of numbers, and I can remember that forever. But like,
I can't
book titles and
movie
titles and actors and I can't. No, this stuff just does not stick in my brain.
I understand. See, nothing sticks in my brain, but it's okay. Eventually I will put some like sticky goo in there, and it will all stay.
One day, right?
Yeah, one day. Like I said, again, I do appreciate it, and we will definitely have you back one day. And I'm gonna send the bot out, and we'll talk with you all later.